Good morning. Good to be here with you this morning out on a nice kind of windy morning here, and continuing to build on the four pillars of a Christian healthy Christian business leader, healthy relationships, biblical financial values, biblical spirituality, and balanced living. This week, we're focusing on pillar number 2, which is biblical financial values, and I've titled the series for this week, Saving for a Rainy Day. And again, I was standing outside a bank, just, I guess, because talking about the whole concept of saving. Yesterday, we talked about why save for a rainy day, and we talked about the fact that, the reality is, Jesus said that you're going to face rainy days. And that's why we should save for rainy days. This morning, I want to talk about good years and bad years. And I'm not talking about tires, just so we're clear on that. What if you knew the future? Would that change how you behave today? Would that change what you do, how you deal with your finances? Now, I cannot tell you when, but I can tell you that we will all have good days that may stretch into years, and we'll all have bad days that may stretch into years as well. Good morning, Melissa. Good to have you here with me this morning. Have you ever met someone whose life just seems to go from bad to worse? Life is not good, and you're kind of hoping and praying for them that things are going to get better, but instead of things getting better, they get worse. And then when you think, okay, well, this is coming to an end now, and things ought to get better now, and then they just get worse again. And have you ever met someone like that? I've met people like that. Here's some good advice. In fact, I call it great advice. Genesis chapter 41, and here's the words, 41 verse 34 to 36. Let Pharaoh appoint commissioners over the land to take a fifth of the harvest of Egypt during the 7 years of abundance. They should collect all the food of these good years that are coming and store up the grain under the authority of Pharaoh to be kept in the cities for food. This food should be held in reserve for the country to be used during the 7 years of famine that will come upon Egypt, so that the country may not be ruined by the famine. Now that is great advice, but here's the backstory to that advice. The backstory is, this is a man who has had, by this point, about 10 years, maybe 8, somewhere between 8 and 10 years of things just going from bad to worse for him. Some of you are familiar with the story, and you probably already know who I'm talking about. Some of you might not. Well, this man at the age of 17 was sold into slavery, not by foreigners, not taken away from his family. No, it was his actual family that sold him into slavery. And in some parts of the world today, that's still happening. And that's unfortunate, and that should not happen. Well, this young man at the age of 17 was sold into slavery by his brothers. He got bought. Once he was sold into slavery, taken away, brought to Egypt. While he was in Egypt, there he got bought by a man. And he started to serve in that man's house, and he did well. He did well. He served so well that the man put him in charge of everything in his house. And yet that whole thing blew up in his face. So in a bad situation, this man sought to make it good as he could. And yet again, that went bad. He ended up in jail. In jail, falsely accused. Where once again, what does he do while he's in jail? He behaves. He becomes a friend to, in essence, the warden. And he is allowed to connect and interact with the other inmates. But he's left there to rot. He's left there to rot. He had some real positive interaction with a couple of the inmates. And one guy got free and then just simply forgot about him. One day, the king, Pharaoh, the king, has a dream. And no one can tell him what this dream means. And so what does he do? He says, is there anybody that knows anybody? And finally, this forgotten man is dragged out of prison to tell Pharaoh what Pharaoh's dream means. And so he's dragged out of prison, and he tells Pharaoh, your dream means there's going to be 7 years of abundance. 7 great years. 7 years you're going to have more food, you're going to have more of everything you could possibly imagine. Like 7 great years. But following those 7 great years, there's going to be 7 years of famine. 7 horrible years. And again, that's why I said in the beginning, if you knew the future, what would you do? Would that change how you behave? And see, it's out of that knowledge that he then says to the Pharaoh what he should do. Now, this man could have been bitter, could have been saying, you know what, you got me out of jail so I can tell you what to do. Good luck. I'll see you, whatever. And just simply gone back to jail and served the rest of his time. He could have done that. But instead, he says to Pharaoh, this is what you need to do. Now, think about this for a moment. This guy is a slave who has been put in jail and has been forgotten in jail and has had at least 8 years, probably around 10 years, of nothing but bad happen to him. He could have just left it at that and said, good luck. But instead he said, what you need to do, Pharaoh, is you need to prepare for the bad years. You need to get ready for those bad years. Don't just live it up. Don't just say, oh, we've got 7 great years. Let's have a party. Let's spend. Let's do whatever we want. Let's just eat it all up. Instead, he says you need to build barns and you need to store away food for the bad years. See, far too often, we see the bumper crops and we just want to live for the here and now. We just want to live for, today and just enjoy today. And yet again, as I talked about yesterday and we'll be talking about throughout this week, it is important to prepare for the rainy day. Today, as you go about your day, think about the future rainy day, the future rainy days. Are you prepared? And then may we learn from Joseph and follow his great advice. Have a great day, and I'll see you again tomorrow.